Hey everybody, I'm Joshua Orro, the Mustang Prince, and welcome to Mustang Prince Orro Reports. So, after my previous blog, I thought that perhaps I should talk about Nickelodeon again, which is, may I remind you guys, one of several TV channels that I grew up with next to Disney Channel and Cartoon Network. Now, mostly everybody knows Nickelodeon for their famous Nicktoons like Rugrats, Wild Thornberrys, Hey Arnold, Fairly Odd Parents, Cat Dog, Jimmy Neutron, and SpongeBob SquarePants. But Nick also produced several other stuff, like the 2006 Charlotte's Web movie, Hotel for Dogs, Monster Trucks, the 2014 Ninja Turtles movie, along with Wonder Park, Dora and the Lost City of Gold, Rango, and of course, The Adventures of Tintin. And for today's episode, thanks to another request from Marissa Baribia, I'm going to take a look at the very first movie that Nickelodeon ever produced. So let's get started. Released on July 10th, 1996, the movie is Harriet the Spy. So, let's get started. Harriet Welsh may only be in the 6th grade, but she's already found her true calling, to be a spy. In a private journal she takes everywhere, Harriet records suspicious activity and keeps a running list of observations on virtually everybody she knows. It seems harmless enough until one day when someone finds the journal and exposes Harriet's critical thoughts about her classmates. Suddenly, even her best friends are turned against her, and Harriet has to resolve to take revenge. So, what do I personally think of the film? Well, despite the fact that I'd never known about this movie or its book counterpart during my childhood, I found it to be a sort of decent family film. But let me explain my Mustang notes. Now, as I said earlier, this was the very first movie produced under the Nickelodeon Movies banner, and this was 2 years before the Rugrats movie got released in theaters. The screenplay was adapted from Louise Fitzhugh's 1964 novel of the same name. Director Bronwyn Hughes commented on the adaptation, saying certain things about the 60s story, especially the relationship between kids and their parents, had to be adjusted to make sense because you don't have the same kind of formality that you had in the book in the 60s between parents and kids. So those things needed to be made more natural to the 1990s kids audience. But it was also really important that the things that really affected Harriet in the book would be the things that really affected Harriet in the movie. The result mixed elements from various decades, but Hughes aspired to create a timeless film that featured little technology. The film was shot in Toronto, Ontario during the fall of 1994 and the winter of 1995, along with Fort Lauderdale and Miami, Florida. Director Bronwyn Hughes recalled it was Paramount's financial decision to make Toronto look like New York. Although, to tell the truth, nothing looks like a row of brownstones and stoops like New York. So they just started choosing great locations to create a visual experience. Also to note, the movie influenced a 2010 TV movie called Harriet the Spy Blog Wars, which I think I might have rented from Netflix a little while ago. Now, I need to remind you guys that I never read the original Harriet the Spy book, not even during my elementary school age. However, What I can say is that I like the 90s styled cinematography, and I like some of the movie's soundtrack. Plus, there were some parts that felt a tad familiar, like the parts where Harriet goes on her spy route. Makes me think of Nancy Drew from 2007, and most of the movie feels like the My Little Pony episode, Ponyville Confidential, due to Marion reading Harriet's private journal to the whole class. Lastly, the scene where Harriet gets covered in blue paint was not only very mean-spirited, but it kind of gave me Carrie flashbacks. Also, I thought the scene where Harriet sees a psychologist made me think back to times when I had to see a therapist every week due to my autism and Asperger's syndrome. And now, let's move on to the cast. The main character, Harriet M. Welsh, is played by Michelle Trachtenberg, who got to be in Richie Rich's Christmas Wish, Disney's Inspector Gadget, and Ice Princess. I really like Harriet for her passion in writing about everything that she observes, even though it can get her into trouble one time. Plus, I think Harriet is spunky, stealthy, and I think Michelle's voice back then was really adorable. Next we come to Catherine O'Galley, played by Rosie O'Donnell, best known as Turk from Disney's Tarzan. Catherine would have to be my favorite character in the movie due to her being a mentor to Harriet. Also, I think Rosie's acting kind of makes her sound pretty similar to Kathy Bates. And I like when Catherine quotes several writers like Lewis Carroll. Plus, due to her being Harriet's nanny, she makes me think back to when me and my sister were babysat by a very sweet lady named Delia during our childhoods. Next we have Harriet's closest friends, Simon Roke, aka Sport, and Janie Gibbs, played by Gregory Smith and Vanessa Lee Chester. To me, these kids have very interesting hobbies. For example, Janie likes doing chemistry, and Sport likes to help his writer dad around their house. Finally, we have Marion Hawthorne, played by Charlotte Sullivan. Marion would have to be the very least likable character in the movie, due to her high-class reputation. Mainly because of the fact that her father abandoned her family and moved to the Netherlands. Also, I think Marion's meanest moment is when she steals Harriet's private journal and reads it to the whole class, which in turn makes Janie and Sport turn against Harriet. And now for my final words. Overall, Harriet the Spy is a decent family movie, but not very spectacular though. It starts off very promising, but then it begins to drag during the middle, but then it picks up again during the finale. Plus, there were some mean-spirited moments. Plus, the main character was very relatable and spunky, and her pals were also pretty interesting. Lastly, the plot can be a tad cliched, but the childhood nostalgia and the writing scenarios make up for it. You may not like it as much as Nickelodeon's other works that came afterwards, but still, it can't hurt to share this movie with your children at least once. So, I give this movie a 66% out of 100. Well, that's all for now. Be sure to tune in next time as we head over to LaRouche City for another Pokemon movie, Mustang Power.